This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate. This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate. This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California
I'll
State
see if
Senate.
this is on. Oh, it is. I can hear that. Good morning, everyone. I'm Fran Pavley. I'm the chair of the Select Committee on Climate Change and AB 32 legislation. I represent the 27th Senate District, but with redistricting over the last 13 years I've been in office, I think I've represented probably a third of Los Angeles, including UCLA for many years. And so this is like coming back home for me when I'm having a hearing right here. So thank you very much for giving up part of your morning for this discussion. I find this incredibly helpful, having these select committee hearings. I've chaired the select committee on AB 32 implementation since about 2006, the year after it passed, because I think it's very important for the legislature to continue to provide oversight and input and be educated and informed on how we are doing in meeting the targeted goals, whether it's through executive orders or in statute. Amazingly important. And it's been, interestingly enough, and it'll be a story I'm hoping to tell a little bit in Paris in a few weeks, of the success that California has had, whether it's in the clean car legislation that is now a national policy affecting the production of cleaner, more fuel-efficient cars. All foreign and domestic automobile manufacturers seem to be on board. And if you are a car junkie, I'm not, but the auto show is coming to town next week. And so I'm going to take a tour of all these cars that they have rolling out, whether it's hydrogen fuel cell or other kinds of alternative fuel vehicles. So very exciting. The purpose of this hearing today is to really focus on just three issues that are really relevant to the discussion we're having up in Sacramento. As far as Sacramento timescale, if you have a bright idea for a bill, this is a time to go talk to legislators, right? Because this is our relatively time that we're in our districts. Session starts right after the first of the year on January 4th. This will be the second year of a 2-year session. We operate in 2-year sessions, so it'll end right before Labor Day or about August 31st next year. So we're pretty much Monday through Thursday up in Sacramento. Legislators are generally down in their district or having hearings around the state on Fridays. And so it's a pleasure for me to be here once again at UCLA Law School. I want to thank everyone at UCLA for being such a wonderful host. It's a great setting. Always a pleasure to come here. I wish there wasn't the 101 and the 405, but other than that, always a pleasure to come here. I wanted to give a shout out and a big thank you to the UCLA Law School Dean, Jennifer Mnuchin, for hosting. Kara Horowitz, thank you very much. I know Madeline has been assisting our office, and anyone else in the UCLA team that I have forgotten to mention. Joining me in a few minutes, somehow caught in traffic. Hey, Keith Parker. Good morning, you're late. I know him well enough. I know. This is my UCLA weekend, right? UCLA today, go Bruins against Washington State tomorrow night, right? At the Rose Bowl. So Richard Bloom is on his way, stuck in traffic. Do you have traffic in Santa Monica? None. Okay, good. Maybe he's on one of those bicycles that you've got. He's on his way, and he'll be joining me, and he chairs an important budget subcommittee in the State Assembly on resources and transportation issues very relevant to discussions of cap and trade monies and other policies. He's a pleasure for me to work with. He's my assembly member, and I live in Agora Hills. So what we're focusing on today is 3 topics and looking for solutions. We want your ideas. We have great speakers, but we're asking you to keep your comments relatively brief so that we hear from everyone, open it up to discussion or questions by either member, and then at the end we'll have public comments. There's a sign-up sheet for public comments at the end of the presentations on the introductory panel, plus 3 other panels. and welcome your input, either verbally or sending things in writing. This is being taped, and you'll be able to have access to, I believe, I'm looking at Andre, PowerPoints and things. Will they have access to PowerPoints? Yes, they will. Posted online. And which website would that be posted on?
Our select committee website.
Our select committee website. So if you Google Fran Pavlian, you get into my website, look for a select committee on AB 32 and climate implementation, and you'll have access to all the PowerPoints that the presenters have taken time to prepare for you this morning. So what are the three topics we're looking on? We're looking at multiple benefits when we're looking at climate change solutions. The first one is a simple one to fix. It's the drought, 4 years of record drought, but seriously using climate change policies relating to the drought, whether it's more regional solutions to reduce the dependence on importing water long distance. 20% of all the energy we use in the state is moving, treating, and heating water. We need to have that part of our future scoping plans if we're going to read.
Would you speak up? I can't hear you.
I can speak up. Is that better?
Yeah, a little bit.
All right. I'll try to use my teacher voice. Thank you. And so moving and treating and heating water is 20% of all our energy use. We'll be having a panel on drought. We'll be looking at how AB 32 is affecting and incentivizing new businesses to be created, whether it's in alternative fuels or other aspects of reducing GHGs, and the jobs component that goes with that. We have 3 speakers in that panel. And our third panel is on housing and transportation, always relevant, especially in the Los Angeles area, always key to looking at more strategic urban planning, transport-oriented housing, and smart ways that we can have growth but also reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Los Angeles is becoming a very good model and perhaps incubator, if you will, on good ideas to address just that. So let us go on and start with our introductory panel, and I'd like to start with that. I understand, Kara, you're going to introduce the introductory panel, is that correct? Mm-hmm. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Kara Horowitz. She is the Executive Director of the Emmett Center on Climate Change and the Environment at UCLA School of Law. It's a pleasure for me to serve on the Emmett board, so I know Kara does an excellent job, and in her prior life, she was with NRDC, and I had pleasure with working for a few years with you. She was a staff attorney there. So, Kara, why don't you come forward and introduce the 3 members of your panel. And where is Richard? He's hiding there. Never mind. Okay, let's go ahead and begin. Thank you, Kara.
Thank you so much, Senator Pavley. So as you said, I'm Kara Horowitz. I work at the Emmett Institute, which focuses on climate law and policy questions, as you know, at the law school. It's really our pleasure to host this hearing today, together with UCLA's Institute on the Environment and Sustainability. Needless to say, we love it when Sacramento comes to Los Angeles. And at this hearing in particular, I'm very excited that you're addressing an issue that's really at the core of UCLA's efforts and interests, sustainability in the face of climate change. Helping California succeed in its landmark climate change efforts is, in my view, and should be a really core role of the state's public universities. And you'll see that reflected in a lot of work that we're doing at the UCs and at UCLA. Welcome, Senator Bloom.
We said good things about you while you were gone.
She just elevated me. or demoted me.
Yes, thank you. Yes. So, as you know, the University of California is committed to leading the way on climate action. The university president, Janet Napolitano, has pledged that our UC system become carbon neutral by 2025. It's a hugely ambitious goal. And that pledge was one inspiration for a groundbreaking report that the UCs released about 2 weeks ago called Bending the Curve, which I recommend to you if you haven't already seen it. My co-panelist, Stephanie Pincel, and I were among many co-authors of the report, which draws from the expertise of more than 50 researchers and scholars across the UC system. The report brings California's climate lessons to the rest of the world. In it, we synthesized what we've learned over the past several decades into 10 scalable solutions that can bend down the curve of carbon emissions and global warming by 2050. The report draws really heavily on the work that you have done on practical, pragmatic experiences here in California, taking lessons from the implementation of many of the programs that you and the legislature have put into place here, showing how they might be used globally. On a more regional but still really ambitious scale, here at UCLA, we're using our expertise in sustainability to help make Southern California more resilient in the face of climate change in the decades to come. We've undertaken, as you may have heard, a campus-wide initiative called Sustainable LA Grand Challenge to help LA get to 100% renewable energy, 100% locally sourced water, all by 2050, while protecting the region's biodiversity and public health. And that is, as you can imagine, it's a huge challenge. It's one we're really excited to tackle as a university and as a public university. The effort's being led by Mark Gold and has been joined by over 140 faculty across the UCLA campus. It's a new model for cross-campus collaboration here, and it's already yielded results. The Sustainable LA project has led to new cross-disciplinary work characterizing our groundwater and our energy resources in LA, both of which are really foundational questions for reaching our goals in that area. And you'll see UCLA's commitment to finding climate solutions reflected in the work of departments all across the campus. There's really too much good work being done here for me to touch on even a small portion of it in these brief remarks, which I am wrapping up. But I want to mention just a couple of projects that are of particular interest to the work of your subcommittee in particular. The Luskin Center for Innovation, led by J.R. DeShazio, has just released a guide to Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund program expenditures and benefits focused on advantages and opportunities in disadvantaged communities. Dr. Alex Hall has continued his cutting-edge work looking at climate impacts in California, and most recently at the impacts of wildfires and on the Sierra snowpack. And here at the Emmett Institute, we've been working within the California courts and through our environmental law clinic to shore up the legality of California's landmark cap-and-trade program. And we're also gearing up to bring a delegation to the UN Paris talks in December, where law school students here will work on behalf of small island developing states for a global agreement, and ideally one that will bring countries from around the world more in line with California's landmark climate efforts. I really can't think of a more critical effort than the one your committee is undertaking to help California show how to tackle climate change while enhancing resiliency and growing our economy. So I really want to thank you for your work. And with that, I'm going to introduce my two UCLA colleagues on the panel. Dr. Stephanie Pincel is the director of the California Center for Sustainable Communities at UCLA. Her research primarily focuses on land use change, urban environmental transformation, and environmental politics. And then to my right is Rich Hoffman. He's the chair of UCLA's Smart Manufacturing Leadership Coalition and the former senior vice president and chief information officer of the Avery Dennison Corporation. Over the past 30 years, he's also led the information technology efforts for 5 manufacturing corporations. I'm really pleased to have them with me here today. Thanks so much.
So can that keyboard slide over? So I'm very pleased to be here. I'm Stephanie Pincel. As Kara said, I'm the director of the California Center for Sustainable Communities, and I want to show you an example of the kind of work UCLA can provide the region and has been providing the region to help the region reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and that this kind of work can also be informative for issues of reducing water use and energy used in heating water, and is, I believe, foundational for achieving a lot of the legislature's goals, including SB 350, AB 1103, and so forth. This is an energy atlas that shows building energy use across the county. It is important because nearly 40% of greenhouse gas emissions in the county are produced by building energy use. And so having a good understanding of which buildings produce what kind of GHG emissions and how much is critical. The analogy I like to use is you go to the car dealer and you don't have any kind of information about how much emissions any car or how much gasoline any car uses. You don't know the difference between a Prius and a Hummer. And so this kind of information, which we were able to put together with a non-disclosure agreement from the Public Utilities Commission, uses address-level billing data from Edison and the gas company that we aggregate to protect customer privacy, but then we are able to show it by all kinds of characteristics. So first you can go to a map. This is all of LA County, and you can get summary statistics by population and so forth. This is a very dense set of information, so I'm only going to give you the very, very top highlights of how this works. You can look it up yourself. And then you can click on any number of cities in the county and do comparative analysis. You can open a full profile here at the map area. You can see quite a bit more about energy use change. We're going to be adding 2010 to 2015 data in the next few months by building types. And this is very important because not all buildings are the same, and the distribution of the numbers of buildings across the landscape varies tremendously. LA is a very low-slung city. So if you're establishing building energy thresholds, you have to take into account where the biggest bang for your buck might be in terms of building type. We also look at building vintage, which makes a huge amount of difference in the amount of energy buildings use, by square foot, and by median consumption. Very, very different results. And then you can look at building energy use by per capita, and we also look at owner and renter by buildings, different building sizes, and you can do a comparative look using the map function. Scrolling back up to the top, you can create tables, and this is actually an incredibly interesting and useful function, because as you can see, you can compare all of the different, these are the cities. We can also go down to the neighborhood level, which is the lowest aggregated level that we work on because of customer privacy. I have a couple. I'm going to just show you these functions so that you can do it yourself, and you can compare, let's say, residential by, say, electricity, by median parcel, or median consumption per square foot. And what happens is you can see which cities use the most, or neighborhoods use the most energy by any of these functions, and then determine where you're going to invest your energy conservation and efficiency dollars in a targeted manner where people really get the best bang for the buck. Do we have strategies and analysis? And I'll come to a close now because I've run out of time. But I do think that what we can do here at UCLA is provide these kinds of important tools and analysis to help move policy forward, and also provide these tools to policymakers and agencies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Very helpful. And we're going to hear from Rich Hoffman next, and then open it up for questions.
Okay.
Mr. Hoffman.
Well, thank you. If you could go right to slide 2. The Department of Energy has launched a program and initiative nationwide to improve the use of improve energy use across the nation. They're looking to have 5 regional locations, and we are proposing that one of those locations be here in Los Angeles, in Southern California. They are putting up $70 million, and they're looking for matched funding from local government and from business. So it's a 3-way match between business, local government, and funding. They're also looking for a nonprofit group to go ahead and lead this, to be a trusted partner between the government and between business, et cetera. And
this
business,
is a research institute?
More or less a research institute. I'll talk about it a little bit on the next
Go ahead.
slide, but in fact, let's go to the next slide. We have a lot of time. There's really 4 components here to talk about on how it works. On the far left, it's supposed to be representing up there R&D at corporations, whether it's R&D or manufacturing operations. What's new here is, I'll try to do it briefly, the last 15 years, the internet and technology has been focused on business to consumer and social computing and twittering, et cetera. Well, now the next wave, I believe, for the next 15 years is going to be the back office, the manufacturing plants, et cetera. There are millions of sensors out there in manufacturing that run all of the equipment. They spew out billions of pieces of information, but the problem is nobody knows what to do with it. It's kind of like the dog chasing a car. You catch it, and what do you do with it? Today, I would say we're utilizing maybe 3 to 5% of that information to improve manufacturing and to make it more productive. So that's what this is the basis of this is having somewhere to go to help manufacturing start to utilize these sensors to improve manufacturing and improve emissions. In order to do that, we need to educate a workforce. So this will create a lot of opportunity for jobs. We also need the junior colleges and the universities to help train employees for this new normal that everybody's going to go into. It will be the next big push for the 15 years. And what companies need today is access to that new technology, which is number 3. So essentially what we would be building is a cloud solution, to use that term, but a cloud solution of infrastructure and good minds who know how to mine this data and use it to support the companies. They need to buy it by the drink. The bottom line is you have small, medium, and large companies. The small companies can't afford it, don't know how to do it. The mid-cap companies and large, like I came from, frankly, it's new. They don't know how to do it yet, and they need somewhere where they can go and collaborate with other companies and with thought partners like the universities to improve it. And the objective of this is to achieve clean energy objectives coming from manufacturing, not just because there's laws and regulation, but now it's very profitable to have low carbon footprint in your product. Our product gets picked and purchased over the next person's because of that carbon footprint. So you really see a win-win-win here between higher education, the industries, and then the clean energy objectives of AB 32. I'll go right to slide 9. Slide 9 shows the economic impact that we would hope to achieve from this. Modest estimate, if you have a 10% increase in output and productivity, you're going to result in 100,000 high-paying jobs and 150,000 other knock-on jobs that go along with that, and annual revenue savings of $23 billion. My background, this is my opinion, that is way light. I've seen us go at Avery Dennison for where 5 years ago the CEO said, we want to reduce our landfill by 20%. We blew right through that in a year and a half, and he said in 3 more years I want it at 0. So companies want to get there, but they need to make money doing it. They can't cost money, so that's why this is great. If you go to the next slide, this is your environmental impact, and if you look at the right side, especially the second bullet, you see a 20 to 30% reduction in energy use, consumption, and greenhouse gas. So I think this is a wonderful initiative, and I really think it's Los Angeles and California's to lose. We are we're the epicenter for new venture capital and startup. We have many multinational and international. This place called Silicon Valley. We're working with Google already. We called on them. Companies like that are very interested in it. And you have a wonderful university system here to support it in the juniors. So that's my pitch. I hope I didn't overrun my time.
No, that was perfect and very exciting. I mean, it was always been a challenge starting in 2000 to realize that Northern California was sort of taking the lead in so many areas in regards to transformation to a clean energy economy. And between UCLA and frankly USC and the city of Los Angeles, doing some amazing things. And Kara, thank you for your presentation. Coinciding with all this is looking at what UCLA is doing. I went to the summit down in the Carbon Neutrality Summit with all the UC systems down at Scripps and La Jolla. Great turnout. It's something legislators should know of what's going on the UC systems, not only the incubator ideas, but the model of sustainability. And the number of students interested in majors in these topics, breaking down the silos between all the departments, is really amazing and speaks strongly for an educated workforce combined with this business opportunities that prevail. But let me welcome Assemblymember Richard Bloom and see if you have some questions. And thank you very much for coming. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to be here. This is a great program that you've put together. I appreciate all the effort that you and your staff have put into it. And it seems, Senator Pavley, that for my entire career in political life, I've been following you around as you've made presentations like this. I'm not alone. Not stalking, following. I absolutely do consider myself a follower of yours, and proud to be so, and I'll be following you to Paris in a couple of weeks.
That's right. We're
as a
going
delegate
together.
to the.
And Richard is my assembly member, so
Right.
I'm a voter.
And I always bear that in mind. I did have one quick question for, is it Dr. Horowitz? Actually, I'm sorry. Dr. Pinstall.
Yes, Pinstall, yeah.
Have you been able yet to draw any conclusions or any preliminary observations from the tool?
Oh, sure.
Which I know it's been in development now for at least a couple of years.
Yes. So on the Atlas, we have some preliminary findings, and we encourage people to send us their discoveries. But one thing that's extremely salient is that newer buildings, because of Title 24, use less energy overall. However, there are some exceptions in the industrial zone to that. The other thing that we've discovered is by square foot, you see some very disturbing findings. So Malibu, single-family residences use about 10 times more energy than anybody else per capita. By square foot, single-family homes in Compton are huge energy hogs. You drive around that neighborhood, those neighborhoods, there are no air conditioners, there's no full house fans, there's nothing. You look at these little tiny houses and you say, how is this possible? The building stock is terrible. It's old. And so what we can do with this tool is go down to the neighborhood level and do these kinds of intercity and inter-neighborhood comparisons by age and by size. And that way we can actually begin to identify the places that really need retrofits. So that's a top finding, I think.
Thank you.
I'd like to follow up on that because we're going to be talking about meeting the goals of SB 350 and the 50% reduction in energy in existing buildings.
Correct.
Not new buildings, existing buildings. And it also may overlap or not, because you mentioned Malibu, investing in disadvantaged communities as a priority.
Right.
So whether it's single-family homes or multi-dwelling units, is that, do you get, to quote you, more bang for your buck in investing in multi-dwelling units that are older and have
well, that's a calculation we can make, but we have not made. Okay. But the data is there to conduct, to do that statistical analysis. What we have done, because of staff, we haven't quite drilled down to each one of these questions, but what we can do is work to answer those questions. So please let us know what you need to know, and we will do the analysis on the data because it's all there. The potential is there to answer exactly that question and where. So West Hollywood, multiple family dwellings, as I recall from the Atlas, are very high energy users. Who would have thought? But without having the data, you really just don't know.
And so I take it from this analysis that we can use that information to drive policy. So, for example, in Compton or West Hollywood, local government could focus what is always going to be a limited resource availability on where the dollars are needed most. Perhaps in Compton it would be in insulating buildings that are drafty and leaky and achieving efficiencies that way. In a city like Santa Monica, it might be that since there tends to be more new construction there, that the new construction will carry the burden of improving the energy efficiency.
That's correct. And LA County, one of our partners and funders is the Regional Energy Network, and so they are actually going to be using these analyses to implement PACE programs, for example. I think one of the challenges for wealthier, newer neighborhoods is the sheer size of the buildings means that they use a lot of energy. So one might consider going out on a limb here, buildings over a certain square foot have to pay certain kinds of GHG emissions indemnification. I don't know how that would work, but clearly size is a huge issue. And I think it is interesting that you can look at greenhouse gas emissions in the built landscape now and really say, well, it's mostly the single family, mostly industrial, mostly commercial, or whatever. That is the biggest generator of greenhouse gas emissions from the built environment.
40%, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but not each sector contributes as the same, right, in terms of the building stock. So you can really begin to differentiate it, much like cars, right? You know, the difference between a Prius and a Chevy Volt and a blah, blah, blah. Now you can say single family, multiple family, commercial, industrial, in a very fine-grained manner and be able to tease out the next round of change that you want to implement.
All right. I want to thank all three of you for your introductory remarks. This hearing is officially off to a great start. So thank you very much, Karen and everyone. So while they are collecting their things, I think in the front row or close by, panel one, titled New Solutions to Climate and Drought. I talked about co-benefits earlier. This would be one of them, regional sustainability and looking at GHG reductions as well as dealing with our fourth year of record drought. And coming forward is Lori Tenhope, is Deputy Director for Research and Development at the California Energy Commission down from Sacramento. The program, with Lori as the front runner, leads the state public interest R&D to develop clean energy innovation and technology expansion while facilitating a transformation to a renewable energy future. Following Lori will be Mark Stewart. He's the Southern Regional Chief of the Department of Water Resources, and as the Southern Regional Chief, he acts as the water master for all of the West Coast basins, Central Basin in LA County. And we know a little bit about water masters, having dealt in the groundwater discussion. Mr. Stewart has been with DWR since 1977 and in the Southern District since 1993. And the last presenter will be Terry Grant. She's a principal engineer at the LA County Department of Public Works. Terry currently works as the Assistant Division Head for Watershed Management Division and has been with the department for 20 years. 2 weeks ago, when I had a hearing on El Nino in the San Fernando Valley, Gary Hildebrand from your department did an excellent job on some of the good work the LA County Public Works Department is doing, so thank you for coming. So let's start off with Lori. Let's hear what the Energy Commission is doing.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I was asked to speak about the Water Energy Technology Program. This program was developed in collaboration with the Water Resources Department and the Water Board with guidance from the Air Resources Board as the funding source is envisioned as the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. So this program was one of the many programs that were directed through the April 1st executive order, and the Energy Commission was asked to establish this new program. It wasn't previously funded at the Commission or elsewhere. The program is designed to basically accelerate innovative water and energy technology solutions. So number one, the technologies have to have greenhouse gas reductions. Those are accomplished with on-site energy and water-saving technologies. We're targeting, this is slide 3, we're targeting the technologies that are past the R&D stage, and they've been proven. They have proven lab results that poise them for broader commercial deployment. And as I'm sure you're aware, all the GGRF projects are awaiting funding from the legislature. So the way the program is envisioned to roll out is in 3 phases. The program allocation is $30 million, and $10 million has been allocated to agriculture, with the bulk of that going to a high-efficient irrigation system. We wanted to broadly deploy sort of cutting-edge precision agriculture, but also reserved a little bit of money for grant programs for customized solutions in different farming applications. The second allocation is to industrial, commercial, and residential facilities, allocating $16 million. This is envisioned as a grant program looking for the best applications with the biggest savings and best commercialization strategy. So these would tend to be water-saving technologies in appliances, food processing, using technologies like heat recovery and water reuse. And the third is desalination. It's a small allocation targeted to this is the one that's it's still under development. Envision that it would focus on existing plants for desalinization of groundwater. So the program, I'm the director of the research program. We focus most of our efforts before the WET program on R&D, sort of on the left-hand side, developing new technologies. This is really envisioned to help bring technologies over what's coined the valley of death and help them with commercialization. I want to just give a couple of examples of the kinds of technologies and solutions that we've seen are out of the lab, but they, for various reasons, cost or people aren't familiar with them, are not broadly deployed. So the first is precision agriculture. And this takes smart meter data that is available on a 15-minute basis, ground sensor information, and using basically the internet or the iPhone to connect pumping information and soil conditions and help be much more precise about the water needs on farm and also detect leaks. We've seen coming out of research programs some pretty cool technologies for commercial applications. The picture on the top is a laundry system that uses closed-loop CO2. So it's industrial-grade CO2 that is recycled in a laundry application. This uses no water. When the CO2 is pressurized, it's a liquid, and when it's depressurized, the clothes are clean. It's 100% water savings, 50% energy savings, 50% lower costs. There are a couple of companies out there testing, and it's pretty promising. On the lower right is there are a couple of companies that have developed advanced walks. Something I thought was quite interesting. There are like 40,000 commercial walks in California. Most of them operate at super high temperature, and they cool with water using about a gallon a minute. So that's about 85 million gallons of water to cool walks. And so these are their strategies. I know, isn't that cool?
Really, we have to get that into the data tool.
And so this strategy is basically, this eliminates the water and has a different burner configuration. So big, not only water savings, but also natural gas savings because the burner configuration is more efficient. Don't want to leave out industry. Industry uses a lot of water for food processing and other applications. Just a couple of examples of emerging technologies that are the kinds of things that might be funded in a WET program. On the left-hand side, tomatoes are traditionally peeled with steam and lye, and there's infrared technology that can peel your technology without chemicals and without steam, so you're reducing hot water, and also your wastewater doesn't have to be clean because there isn't the same chemical introduction. On the right side, a little more technical, but a lot of food processing concentrates products and then has a lot of water waste. And typically, water, if you want to either recycle it for industrial applications or avoid high disposal costs, you need to clean it. And it's typically done with what's called reverse osmosis, which uses pumps to push fluids through a membrane. And more advanced technologies can use a pressure differential, and that lowers your energy use, and it's a pretty cool technology for lowering your energy, but also allowing for water recycle and reuse in industrial applications. It's being tested in soap companies, wineries, and frozen food companies. Residential, this is not a technology that we've specifically funded, but there are several companies that provide water recycling and heat recovery for residential applications. It allows pulling water from tubs, dishwashers, and being able to clean them on site and then recycle it, typically for landscape use, although it could be used for non-potable plumbing. The barrier is cost and additional plumbing and permitting challenges. But the technology exists. And the last example is advancements in groundwater desalination. Desal is very energy intensive. You, I'm sure, are aware in Southern California, a lot of the groundwater needs to be desalinated, and it's very energy intensive. So this is basically a chemical process using electrodialysis technologies that is less energy intensive, and again eliminates your salts so they can be recycled into industrial applications, and allows for recovery of water at a lower cost. So those are just a real quick fly through of some technologies that are out of the lab. They are commercially available, but would benefit from some financial assistance. The WET program is designated a minimum of 10% of funds in disadvantaged communities, and not only that the project would be located there, but it would need to provide benefits to the communities, to the individuals in the communities. As we were designing this program, we did quite a bit of outreach and envision a higher rebate and grant amount for projects in the disadvantaged communities. We're basically ready to launch if and when funding is available. As soon as the executive order came out, we established a website, and what we coined an idea exchange, because a lot of people were coming to us, hey, we've got the solution, and we didn't want to just have them coming to us. We wanted the ideas to be available to others. We held public workshops around the state. We have our guidelines ready and our draft applications ready, so it's ready to go. I just want to close with, if people are interested in more information on what this program looks like, we have a website, the Idea Exchange, and if you're interested in funding opportunities either out of this program or other research programs, you can sign up on the listserv and receive regular information. So I'm available for any questions.
All right.
Could you leave that up there for a minute?
We also have it on my website, all that information in addition. Let's give her that. All right. We're going to go on. That's Mr. Bloom has a question right now. We're going to go on and hear from Mark Stewart. Lori, thank you very much. That was very informative. Congratulations on your acronym. Works. And I'll have some follow-up questions after the two speakers. Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Stewart. We look forward to hearing from you.
Good morning. Evidently, the internet has remnants from the past. I am most of those things that you read. That's a relic from about 10 years ago. There was a court decision a couple of years ago. I'm no longer the water master, one of my favorite jobs, but I'm no longer the water master of the West and Central Basins. They were turned over to a group of the pumpers. They're sort of self-regulating now rather than oversight by the department.
How's it going?
It's still a little early. They're struggling. They're trying to figure out how.
Yeah.
I mean, they're smart folks, but they're doing a great job. The West Basin is the most recent one, and it's
Those were adjudicated basins?
yes, ma'am.
Yes.
1961, I believe, for the West Coast Basin, and 1965, I think, for the Central Basin.
All right.
Long time ago.
Yep.
We've been the water master for over 50 years. It was kind of strange not to be that anymore.
You need the keyboard?
This morning, I just wanted to talk about the water energy grant program that the department implemented. It provides funds to, let's see, I guess I better find the right.
Do you need the keyboard?
I have no idea. Let's see, do I push this thing?
Kara's.
Here it says DWR. That would be me. And then if it all works right and I go like that, it works. I'm not a relic myself yet. All right. Yes, this water and energy grant program provides funds to local agencies, joint powers authorities, and nonprofit organizations to implement residential, commercial, and industrial water efficiency programs or projects that reduce greenhouse gas emissions and reduce water and energy use. The projects must do all three, reduce the water use, reduce energy use, and reduce greenhouse gas emissions, which was one of the lessons we learned from our last go-round. There was a few disconnects where people would pile energy, saving projects that indeed reduce energy, but were not linked to water use, and we're going to fix that in the next round. The funding source for this was the greenhouse gas reduction funds. In 2014, we awarded $19 million for local assistance. That was approved by the governor March 1st, 2014 through SB 103 and AB 91. There was an additional $10 million that was appropriated by the Budget Act of 2014 as amended. And then there was $20 million was authorized by the Budget Act of 2015. That's using SB 101 funds. See if I can find the next slide here. Hey, there we go. These projects that were implemented, there were, 22 grant proposals for a total of $28 million for 21 agencies, and they implemented commercial and institutional, residential water efficiency projects that reduce greenhouse gas, as well as reduce water and energy use. Collectively, it's estimated this suite of projects that's shown on the screen will deliver a lifetime water savings of approximately 270,000 acre-feet and reduce greenhouse gas emissions by almost 200,000 metric tons. Consist of in-house, retrofits were part of those. It means that the agency hires a contractor to install more efficient toilets, shower heads, faucet aerators, Energy Star dishwashers and clothes washers, and hot water recirculation pumps. One of those projects in the city of Bakersfield upgraded the city park's irrigation system, so they reduced their total water use. Provides also real-time information on irrigation water demand. Got a list of the sorts of projects that were implemented in this batch. Another example was the city of Merced, where they installed water meters and upgraded their existing water meter data collection system. Eliminates the needs for trucks to drive around and people to actually go around and read the meters, which reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Another one in Santa Clara County, the project would provide installation of water energy upgrades to disadvantaged communities, schools, residents, agencies, businesses within the Santa Clara Water District. It includes the Energy Star water heaters, high-efficiency clothes washers, hot water recirculation pumps, turf conversion, pre-rinse, spray valves in commercial institutions, and climate-appropriate landscaping and ozone. You'll notice there's I don't know how you go back. There were 7 projects in Southern California. One of those was San Gabriel Valley Municipal Water District. The project expands a rebate program for the water and energy efficient washing machines, smart irrigation controllers, and waterless urinals, and adds water and energy efficient dishwashers. There we go. The next round is scheduled tentatively for 2016. Pardon me. To have residential, commercial, institutional, and industrial water conservation projects that reduce energy and greenhouse gases. Tentatively, we're thinking we'll have the guideline and the proposal solicitation package out in April of 2016, with applications due sometime in the summer. Hopefully, we would be awarding those grants in the fall. And that's about all I had, unless you've got questions.
There will be questions following up, but I can't resist asking one question since we're sitting at UCLA. Is DWR administering water energy grants to UC campuses? I mean, is there any reason why they couldn't?
You know, I don't know.
That would be a question.
I'll,
A good one, as we're looking at accomplishing multiple objectives and meeting sustainability challenges, but whether it's community colleges or CSUs or UCs.
great question. I'm sorry, I don't have the answer.
Sorry. And let's go on and hear from Terry Grant from LA County Public Works.
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
DDP.
I've been there.
Yes, you can have it. Oh. Thank you, Senator, for inviting the Department of Public Works to come speak today to talk about our role in sustainable local water supplies. The Department of Public Works is one of the largest public works agencies in the country, and within it, one of our core service areas is water resources. And within that core service area is the Los Angeles County Flood Control District. The district was formed 100 years ago. We're celebrating our anniversary this year. Created in 1915 after several devastating floods that caused a lot of damage and loss of life. And we were created with the mission to not only provide flood control, but also to provide stormwater capture to help support local water supplies. Nope. I heard a ding. No.
There you go.
Okay.
Not happy.
Okay, here we go. Right now, Southern California relies on imported water to provide 2/3 of its water supply. The 1/3 is primarily groundwater, and the Flood Control District helps supply that groundwater by conveying it and infiltrating it into the ground. We do that in concert with a lot of local stormwater, a lot of local water agencies as well. Oh, went backwards. Here you see the part of our system that focuses on the groundwater recharge. Over the 100 years, we've developed an extensive storm system, and it's comprised of many miles of open channels and storm drains, but we have 14 dams and 26 spreading grounds as well. And what you see here is that we have the dams in the foothills that capture the storm water and store it, not only for flood protection, but we hold it there until we can release it into our system to downstream spreading grounds where the water is discharged and held in the basins so it can be infiltrated into the groundwater table. When we have natural bottom channels, we also take the opportunity to use those channels to capture stormwater and infiltrate it into the ground. Over the years, the department's gone through several changes, as you can imagine, but the most recent one is focused on our ability to be sustainable and also to develop multi-use projects that provide multiple benefits. Here you see the stormwater capture that we've been able to produce over the past 15 years or so. On average, we can capture 310,000 acre feet. 1 acre feet supplies 8 people for 1 year. In wet years, we can capture more. In the 2004-2005 storm season, you can see we captured 600,000 acre feet, which is enough to supply the city of Los Angeles. We're hoping to capture more with the upcoming El Nino, where more storm water is expected. What we've done to prepare for the El Nino is a lot of projects over the past few years. Some of those projects are to increase the capacity of our spreading grounds and also improve the operation of our dams so that we can capture more storm water. In 2007 alone, we spent $37 million on 22 different spreading grounds projects. One of the challenges we're dealing with at the dams is removing the sediment that's built up behind the dams so that, because they displace the capacity that we have available to store water behind the dams. State grants have been very helpful. We've received $50 million in Prop 1E funds and $24 million in IRWIMP funds that helped with projects that increase our ability to capture stormwater. All of these efforts require collaboration. We've been collaborating since we were created, especially in the groundwater recharge area, but it's been increased with the IRWIMP program that's brought local water agencies together to plan regionally, develop goals regionally, and work together to meet those goals and address our local water supply needs. Another important effort that we're involved in order to discharge our stormwater, we have to get a permit from the Regional Water Quality Control Board. That permit, the most recent permit we got, we were successful in providing the opportunity to work with the other permittees, which are the cities basically in Los Angeles County, to develop projects and plans that not only address water quality, but also projects that will capture the storm water so it can be treated, but also capture the storm water so that it can be infiltrated into the groundwater table and help with our water supply, so that we get double benefits through the permit. I talked about the multi-use benefit projects that we've been pursuing in more recent years. Here's an example of one that's known as the Sun Valley Project. It started because of a flooding problem in that area. And instead of building our regular traditional storm drain that would have just carried the water to the Los Angeles River without any treatment or ability to capture it, we worked with a number of stakeholders and decided we would take that same watershed and figure out how we could keep all that water within that watershed and make it available for other uses. So we developed a plan of 15 projects in that watershed where we would capture stormwater in various ways. One of the first projects was the Sun Valley Park, where we took a city park and retrofitted it. In the picture to the left, you see we built these underground chambers where we captured the storm water and it allowed it to infiltrate into the ground. We also put some bioswales and improved recreational facilities at the park, thus the multi-benefits. The major project we're working on now is on the right. It's the Rory Shaw Wetlands. It was formerly a 46-acre inert landfill that we purchased. And what we're designing now is a facility that will capture the runoff from that watershed, detain it, run it through the wetlands to improve the water quality, and build a park on that site too. It's a park poor area. And that water there will also be able to go to the Sun Valley Park to be infiltrated into the ground as well. And there are numerous other projects in that watershed that would assist with stormwater capture. We've partnered with the Bureau of Reclamation on a LA Basin stormwater conservation study. And what we were doing there is looking at our existing facilities and our future facilities to try to figure out how we could address our future water needs in light of climate change and population growth. We'll be finishing that study up this year. We did it in concert with, in collaboration with numerous other stakeholder agencies. The good news from that study is we found that there will be enough water for our needs in the future, but it's going to require that we invest in the capture of stormwater to help with that and augment our local water supplies. As you can see on the left, we can on the right, we can increase our local water supply and reduce the amount that's imported. Also, we think that using local stormwater to help with our local water supply may be less energy intensive than importing water and other sources of water as well. So we're right now starting to develop a methodology to compare the amount of greenhouse emissions that would occur from the various water sources. With that, we are ready for this upcoming storm season to try to capture as much stormwater as we can. There's many more projects, though, that we need to implement to capture more in the future, and all of that is going to require a lot of collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your timely presentation. So, Assemblymember Bloom, any questions of the panelists?
Yeah, with respect to the addressing the current demand versus projected demand in 2035, is there a plan that's been adopted to step-by-step achieve that goal?
That's actually the next step. We'll be finalizing the plan by the end of this year, and our next step will be implementation and prioritizing, identifying what would be the critical projects to implement.
And so I would take it that we don't yet have a cost estimate of
No.
what that infrastructure improvement
No, we don't.
might run. Okay, thank you.
Lori, I had a question for you. You had focused on the WET program, some expenditure monies in agriculture, then industrial, commercial, and residential, and including food processing, which has always been on my list because they're one of the exposed entities under AB 32, because it's very hard for them to invest in a lot of energy efficiency, especially with a business model that allows them to be open about 6 months a year during the food processing season and things like that. They're limited. And you also talked about desalination being more energy efficiency. Is there something else you're thinking about adding to the list, or is this where your focus will consistently be from the perspective of the Energy Commission relating to water energy nexus?
Those are only examples,
Okay.
so no, it's not an exclusive list at all. What we typically do in a grant program is establish what the goals of the solicitation are, and then fund the most the technologies that show the most energy and water potential, based on the strength of the team and the attributes of the technology.
And you have all the baselines and
yes,
all that. So I had a question on that. On the agriculture, my understanding is a lot of good work has been doing in investing in higher efficiency irrigation systems, which would deal with the problem with the drought as well as energy efficiency. But most of the water savings have been used to plant additional amounts of produce. I mean, that's good as far as for food consumption or profitability, but I'm not sure how it gets measured when you're, so it wasn't savings per se. It was ability to be smarter in using energy to expand what you're doing. So it's,
I've certainly heard that anecdotally, but I don't have a study to reference on what percentage of farmers that are putting in advanced irrigation are then expanding the crop coverage or realizing those water savings.
I think it's a good investment. Don't know if it's cap and trade. The best way to measure real, permanent, and verifiable, enforceable reductions, if that's the goal. But it's just something I've been thinking about. So if you hear anything, let me know. But
Okay.
I think what the Energy Commission's doing is always outstanding. How are the appliance, I guess it's rebates for washing machines and dishwashers for water energy? Is that coupled with the Energy Star logo? Is that one kind of sales model that the businesses like Home Depot and others can use to market and encourage people buying these more water conservation oriented appliances?
Yes, there were two elements to that program. It's also on hold because there isn't funding right now, but it was a rebate program for washing machines that could be either an instant rebate at point of sale or online or mail-in, depending where you purchased it. And the other half of the funding was targeted to disadvantaged communities as a direct install program for whatever appliances qualified, and it would be dishwashers, washing machines, shower heads, toilets, etc.
Right.
May I ask a follow-up? Is the funding logjam a state funding issue?
It's the greenhouse gas reduction funds are waiting for legislative action.
Because we just have that top 60%.
Right.
That's continuously appropriated, and we have 40% down below that we'll have to work on next year, right?
Yep. We'll be getting started on that in
He's
somebody's budget subcommittee.
He's the budget subcommittee chair. So I'm on the Senate Budget Subcommittee, but he chairs the Assembly Budget Subcommittee. So we'll have lots of conversations.
We will.
I had a question, Mr. Stewart, about you on your scope of what DWR can do. And I know it's confusing lots of times to the public of what's in your department versus the State Water Board. So if you were investing in water and energy projects and expanding who gets those access to money, can you expend money for like recycled water? I know we have money in Proposition 1, but under Water Energy Nexus, if you're reducing the use of potable water and reusing water for landscaping purposes, could that come into your water energy? I mean, there's a pent-up demand for putting in recycled pipes and people reusing their water supply. We shouldn't be using potable water for landscape purposes. Do you know anything about DWR's limitations? We have silos in Sacramento that we still need to work through.
Hard question. We try to interpret the legislation as it's written and apply it appropriately. So I know the IRWM, the Integrated Regional Water Management Program, funds those. I would think that what you're requesting as far as would it apply to the water and energy program, I think the answer would be yes, if you could show a demonstrated reduction in energy use associated with the water saving project. And treating water for reclamation would obviously do that.
Yeah. Yes, I was just, we're starting to get different funding sources, and the potential for leveraging and overlapping these funding sources could be interesting and exciting to many people. And I know the LA County Public Works Department is very interested. They're trying to work on metrics in measuring the carbon embeddedness in the moving and treating and cleaning of water, and that's one of the challenges that we're trying to come up with in Sacramento. As you import water, how do you quantify how much GHG is being reduced? And I think that'll open up some possibilities if we can get that right. So keep up the good work on that. Well, I want to thank all three of you for your testimony, very helpful. Thank you for your presentations. Oh, Mr. Stewart has one last word.
Through the miracles of the internet, I emailed somebody in Sacramento with your question, and I got an answer.
Oh, is this on the schools?
On the school. Oh. The answer is, it depends. If they are a 501c3 nonprofit, then the answer is yes. I think there's some dispute between the universities and state government as to where they actually fall. So there's some confusion regarding that.
So maybe K-12 or community colleges or whatever, but if they have a foundation or something set up?
According to the regents, they're a state agency, and the state agencies wouldn't be eligible.
Uh-huh. All right. Thank you for that. We'll follow up. The next panel is on business competitiveness in a global economy. We have three presenters that are moving forward, and I'll read off their biography as they are moving into the front row here. First speaking will be Ron Miller. He's the Executive Secretary for the LA Orange County Building and Construction Trades Council. Mr. Miller is responsible for major victories for the labor movement, including the signing and adoption of the Construction Careers Policy and Project Labor Agreement at the Port of LA. And John Purcell is here, President and CEO of CalSTART. If you don't know about CalSTART, you should. It's an amazing organization. Has 150 member companies that is dedicated to the growth of the clean transportation technology industry, and John was a big supporter of that original tailpipe emission bill, right? And I really appreciate that. And the final speaker will be Danny Kennedy. He's an entrepreneur and activist, and the author of the book Rooftop Revolution: How Solar Power Can Save Our Economy and Our Planet from Dirty Energy. He founded Sungevity, a leading global residential solar power company. So thank you very much, all three of you, for coming, talking about businesses, new business models, and the jobs that come with it. So let's start with Ron Miller.
Good morning. Thank you for having us here today. I represent 140,000 working men and women in LA and Orange County, and it's great to have folks go ahead of me talk about jobs that we're already doing. We work with the county very close, and that's our folks on those projects. And we know what it takes to address climate change. You know, we install scrubbers on smokestacks, retrofit buildings for energy efficiency. We're the ones building the solar farms out in the desert. And the biofuels and geothermal plants, that's our work. That's the stuff that we train for. We have about 43,000 apprentices in the pipeline in the state of California. And so legislation like you guys pass is good because it takes into account the local community. We're able to fashion project labor agreements together that promote local hire, that allow us to pull folks out of the local community and put them into our apprenticeships. And that's the best thing that you could do for a local community is give someone a career. Right. The low-flow toilets are great. We like to install them, but if you can give somebody a career in the construction industry, they can make a good wage and support their family. So, and that's what we do through our apprenticeships. They're the best trained. The Renewable Portfolio Standard has been a huge success in reaching the 2020 goals and providing good in-state jobs and careers. And it's our members that work for private employers every day. So they have to be competitive. They have to be highly skilled and competitive to compete. And we've always supported climate change policies that go hand in hand with good jobs. So that's sort of where we come from. You know, we're all for more efficient and good water supply. We know that's what it takes. We need the water everywhere in the state, even for construction. So it was great to hear the lady from the county speak. We recently cut the ribbon on a groundbreaking for the GRIP project in Pico Rivera that's going to take wastewater from a treatment plant, clean it up, and inject it back into the aquifer. Yeah. Right now, the WRD, the Water Replenishment District, buys imported water, thousands of acre feet a year, good, clean, potable water, and injects it into the ground. Well, this is going to take that place, and they won't have to buy that water anymore.
There was a really good story in the LA Times, I believe, this last week on that facility. Good for them.
Same thing in the Terminal Island. They're going to eventually get to zero discharge with their water treatment plant. It's all being recycled and injected back into the barrier that holds the salt water back from the fresh water. So there's innovative ways going on right now that's keeping from having to use that precious potable water when we can save it for drinking water. As far as solar work going, more than 6,000 megawatts have been built already, and there's thousands more under construction. And California is home to the 3 largest solar plants in the nation. So that continues to grow. You know, we started with less than 20% renewables. Utilities are on track to blow right past that. San Diego Gas and Electric will be at 40% in 2016. So these are all of the projects that we're involved in. And with the recent signing of SB 350, it's just going to mean more jobs for the community. We also partner with energy efficiency companies. We're going around to school districts and government entities, and they do the building surveys to find out what the actual buildings need to bring them up to standards and devise a plan that is affordable for the school and workable to make that happen, to make the schools more efficient, because our kids spend hours and hours there a day. We need to make those schools efficient. Biofuels, very important in the future. We have 3 biofuel plants in the state, but we're getting a lot of biofuel from out of state. We could be building those plants here.
Where are those 3?
I'd like to tell you, but I can't.
Okay.
It's top secret.
All right. Thank you, but there are 3. We can verify that.
But there are, and I can get you the information.
Okay, no, that's fine.
But we need to build more plants here, more capacity in the existing plants, so that we can put men and women from the state of California to work. That's going to be a fuel of the future. With the governor's mandate, we need to meet that. But we need to meet it with folks in the state of California. So I'd entertain any questions.
All right. Thank you very much for that. And we love it when the co-benefits of the policies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions are creating good jobs for real people and permanent jobs. So thank you for your presentation and your good work. So let us go on to John Bazell and from CalSTART.
Okay. Chair Pavley, thank you very much for this opportunity, and Chairman Bloom, appreciate a chance to present to you as well. I am the president and CEO of CalSTART. We're a 23-year-old not-for-profit organization that was founded in the early 90s when we had the Cold War had broken out, and we had severe job losses resulting from cuts in defense and aerospace spending. And at the time, we had the CARB zero-emission vehicle mandate, and the hope was to put people back to work, building the cars of the future while improving our air quality. And at that point, we weren't talking about climate change so much, but it was at least a smaller priority, and it's become a huge priority in the last 23 years. And so what I'm really coming today is to talk about a sort of a status report over the last 23 years. I think some tremendous progress has been made, but we're just at the beginning of what's possible here. And I do have a few slides, and let me see, arrow down or right? There we go. I just want to say that our membership, we have about 160 member companies, and membership is growing. More and more companies are seeing a real opportunity in the clean transportation technology space. Our membership represents all the different fuels and technologies that will help us reduce greenhouse gas emissions and criteria emissions as well. So I think this is a very exciting space, and I love working with our companies on a daily basis. What is really different from the 1990s is that we now have an active investor council. 5 companies, investors, leading venture capital firms, private equity firms, the largest bank in the state, that are actively interested in the clean transportation technology space, looking to make investments. I had just one of our meetings with them yesterday. Some very positive reports on what they're seeing in terms of the cost of batteries. It wasn't that long ago, say 5 years ago in 2010, we were looking at battery packs costs at a cost of $1,000 per kilowatt hour. They're now saying by 2020 we'll be like at $150 per kilowatt hour. So think about that in that 10-year period. And there are a couple of stealth battery companies in California right now that the investors don't want to talk about, but if any of those technologies come to the fore...
Are they close to those 3 biofuel companies? We're not allowed to know where they are? I mean, this is just...
These are stealth for another reason.
No, the innovation in the state is amazing. That's sort of why we have these hearings. We find out things that are going on. Maybe they just need more capital to ramp up, but the technologies are there, and battery storage is a huge part of this discussion.
It is really exciting, and in this slide too just shows, one of the things when we first started in the early 90s, we said, well, California could do this because we got all this aerospace and defense technology, but we've also got a significant presence of the automotive industry already in California, and we would always point to the design studios in Southern California. And that was, every major car company has a design studio. So that was sort of almost kind of on the beauty side of a car. But what you've seen now in the last 5 years are sort of the brains of the automotive industry everybody's coming to Silicon Valley and tapping into California talent because they know this is the future. They're tapping talent for how can high technology help improve the efficiency of a vehicle. There's some interest, obviously, in the communication and infotainment side of it, but then also autonomy is also another big reason why there's now significant employment by the global automotive industry in California. I want to just walk you through a few examples of some of our exciting member companies and the potential they have. BYD is a major Chinese company from Shenzhen that now has a plant in Los Angeles County in Lancaster. They are building electric buses there now. They have gotten state funding for electric buses. They have contracts with Long Beach Transit, Antelope Valley Transit Authority. They are also looking into building electric trucks as well for serving the ports. So an example of a company that comes to California because they know this is where the action is, this is where the policy is, this is where the funding is. They're not moving to Nebraska, they're not moving to Texas, they're coming to California to set up shop. Proterra is a venture capital-backed electric bus company as well. They were really started in South Carolina, and probably in part due to lower wages. They are now basically becoming a California company. They got a California Energy Commission grant to set up a plant in the city of Industry. That should be operational in January. They've set up a 34,000 square foot R&D facility in the Bay Area, in San Francisco Bay Area. They are growing rapidly, accumulating orders. But what's exciting about both these companies is that they are electric only. So they are competing with existing bus manufacturers, but all they want to do is produce zero-emission buses. And they are really starting to make some great progress. And this is an example of where the state's now formerly called Greenhouse Gas Reduction Funds, now called California Climate Investment, CCI dollars, are helping. There's a pending zero-emission truck and bus pilot solicitation on the street right now, and both these firms are going after those funds in a big way.
So that's one of the reasons they're coming back into California, despite the higher cost of living. But
the state is providing more funding for zero-emission buses than the Federal Transit Administration is.
Okay.
Another example of where California's leadership is that we've got the largest electric vehicle supply equipment company in the world is in Silicon Valley. ChargePoint, they are there because they were able to tap into Silicon Valley technology, talent, and build sort of the best system, and they are growing rather rapidly. And then I really just want to talk about Tesla. And then some of its colleagues, if you will. First of all, when a lot of people think of Tesla, they think of a luxury electric car. And just reading the automotive news on the way here this morning, another car company say they are developing a Tesla killer. So, here are these companies that sell millions of cars a year, and they're talking about going after killing Tesla because they produce 30,000 cars a year. But they're all designing these high-end luxury cars. Well, they're skating to where the puck was. Tesla is coming down to a $30,000 car. They want to become a mass producer of affordable electric cars. The fact that Elon Musk has been able to create really what is a fourth car company, period. Since World War II, everybody's tried to compete with the big three. Come on. Tucker failed. Kaiser failed. Tesla, Musk has been able to do it. But the future is just beginning for this company. And when I think of this company, I don't think of luxury electric cars. I think of 9,000 employees in California alone. 9,000 employees. These are good jobs. 60% of the employees self-report as non-Caucasian. They now have 300 people working in a plant in Lathrop in the San Joaquin Valley. This company is on the move. We need to do what we can to keep it going, not only because it's the largest employer in the clean energy sector in California, but because it is driving change, getting the other car companies to do much more than they would have otherwise. Now let's just talk about other Tesla-like companies. Apple is developing a car. Apple is developing a car, an electric car. And that is really not that stealthy anymore. Would they have been doing it if Tesla hadn't shown that it was possible? Fisker Automotive is rebirthing now in
San Bernardino,
in Moreno Valley. There's their newest facility. A Chinese company that actually owns a large U.S. automotive components firm, has bought Fisker. He has said, the owner of that firm has said he'll put whatever it takes to make that company work. That's going to be another $1 billion bet. Apple's doing a $1 billion+ bet. And then we just learned this last week about Faraday, another Chinese company saying that has a very big digital equipment firm, saying that they want to come in and build the next generation electric autonomous vehicle. So we have basically $4 billion+ bets on new car companies of the future. This is happening because California's got the policies, it's got the investment, and it's got the talent. Senator Pavley, I think a lot of this really comes back to you and to your leadership. This is why we have given you're the only person, legislator, to receive 2 CalSTAR Blue Sky Awards. Your policies have really put a lot of this in motion. And I agree with my colleague that we do want to keep working on the biofuel sector. We do want to see more biofuels produced in the state of California. I think that would be a great place to direct some CCI dollars now. Mr. Bloom, you're not termed out, I don't believe, this next year, like Senator Pavley. But if it really, the next 10 years are critical. If we're going to keep under the 2 degrees centigrade change, we have the next 10 years is what it's all about. And if the state can keep this kind of level of investment of CCI, sustain it for the next 2 years, we can really drive change that will resonate throughout the rest of the country and the world.
No pressure.
All right, and before we ask some questions, I want to hear from Danny Kennedy, Managing Director of California's Clean Energy Fund. Is that correct?
That's right. And just to say thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be in front of you, Senator Pavley and Assemblymember Bloom. You might remember me as the solar guy, founder of Sungevity, and I will talk a little bit to that experience in the solar industry, but I just for the record want to make clear here as the Managing Director of the California Clean Energy Fund, and also as the President of CalCharge, which is a subsidiary of the California Clean Energy Fund that brings together a lot of the battery startups and big businesses in the space doing energy storage. Just a bit of background on CalCEF, the Clean Energy Fund. We came out of a settlement that the state made through the PUC with PG&E around the energy crisis back in 2004. You probably remember that. And the original funds were put into a non-profit, which I now manage. I've only been doing this for 2 months, so forgive me, it's all new. But I think it's a useful narrative and story to think about climate policy and the challenge that you put before us today and business competition and competitiveness globally as to how CalCEF has contributed to California's leadership that has been described here today. We took this money, we made a bunch of direct investments, some investments in funds, and catalyzed an angel fund as well. Probably touched over 50 companies. A big one that we did very well with is on the screen behind you, Tesla Series A. And because we're a non-profit, we're able to turn that money back in instead of inuring investors into furthering clean energy adoption. So, for example, we used $1 million of proceeds to catalyze the UC Davis Energy Efficiency Center, which you probably know is one of the centers of excellence in the state on building efficiency and other energy efficiency requirements. We also spawned this thing called CalCharge, which is a kind of unique consortium of the private institutions in the energy storage industry, like the startups and Bosch and VW and Toyota and the big corporates doing battery and other energy storage, plus the 3 national labs in California doing work in this area, SLAC at Stanford, the Lawrence Livermore and Lawrence Berkeley National Labs, and also a bunch of universities like UC San Diego. And just last month announced that Southern California Edison has joined that consortium to advance battery storage. So we're taking, monies made out of clean tech investments and we're spawning further ways and to facilitate the ecosystem of innovation and having great success doing that. We've also spawned a bunch of startups straight from our entrepreneur in residence program like Metris, which uses a unique financing model to advance energy efficiency, and the Renewable Energy Trust, which is a privately held company, but is basically the first yield co in the United States, if you know that model of financing solar and wind farms. So, it's had a great effect over 12 years, lots of jobs and careers for people. And I think one of the key points from these learnings from me to you is it buys in your constituencies as well. It sort of, it was a useful allocation of just $30 million to then leverage hundreds of millions of dollars of co-investment and co-benefits like these jobs that we've created. And I would say that's my experience coming out of the solar industry as well, and looking at the California Solar Initiative as a kind of climate policy. It wasn't always framed as such by Republican Governor Schwarzenegger, but it's certainly a Californian climate investment of note that we should just recap here, just in this informational session. There were $3 billion provided with a 10-year plan. As you know well, that succeeded in just 6 short years to really spawn an industry and go through the funds that were available by rebate to solar projects. And that has exceeded way beyond anyone's expectations, I think. You've spawned with that program not just the gigawatts of solar installed in California, but really catalyzed the national industry, because it's all come out of California. If you think about the big players, Sungevity, Solar City, Sunrun, etc. We've now done 26 gigawatts of solar installations nationally. That was from 2 gigawatts in 2010 and just hundreds of megawatts in 2005. And that really is a credit to the California Solar Initiative. It's also spawned in this state 55,000 new jobs in the solar industry. That means we now employ more people in solar than the utilities, Southern California Edison, SDG&E, LADWP, San Diego Gas and Electric, and SMUD do combined. So it's been a great job creation engine. And I think lastly, to the topic of the panel, it's really caused California to be now globally competitive in the solar industry, which is this huge growth industry growing at about 40% compounded annual growth rates. My company, Sungevity, is one of those companies that's now gone global. We're in 4 countries now outside of the United States. And I think, one of the opportunities for us going forward is to catalyze a lot of export businesses, and not just the products and the hardware, but the kind of models. The solar leasing that came out of the California Solar Initiative is now being adopted around the world to take that upfront barrier of capex out of the solar proposition for end users. And so we need to spread those around the world. A couple of other quick thoughts for you just to end on, entering into the second investment phase with the GGRF, or California Climate Investments, is the idea of moving past just the sort of rebating models. The good news on solar and storage, as I learned more about it with CalCharge, is we are able to compete in a lot of settings with the values we provide and the cost structures of the hardware and the cost of our system installations as that's come down with scale. So really looking for ways to invest that foster these entrepreneurial ecosystems, I think, is key. Also thinking about financial leverage, as you've done as a government with PACE as a great example. It kind of came up in the milieu of the California Solar Initiative, pioneered by cities like Berkeley, and then was stymied by the great financial crisis, as you recall. And for those that don't know PACE, it's the Property Assessed Clean Energy Mechanism. And then the state providing just $10 million worth of loan loss reserve really helped catalyze that market and get 167 cities to start offering that, and counties up and down the state, and billions of dollars investment. So it's sort of thinking about smart financial leverage like that and mechanisms with these dollars that you have to really boom and spread big businesses. I think there's many other examples of that, and also of non-financial measures that you can use to streamline bureaucracy and reduce cost structures of these growing ecosystems. So really interested in the conversation around ecosystem facilitation, how entities like CalCEF can help you further spawn more startups, bring them together, give them sandboxes to play in like CalCharge so that they can accelerate their own innovation cycles. And probably some of that means giving us new metrics as well, because I think if California climate investments go forward just with dollars per ton, you miss some of these co-benefits and you don't track them and you don't buy in the constituency as well. So, part of the design of the programs going forward might want to think about other measures, like where are the businesses being built, and are they going into diverse communities in California? Are they lifting all boats, as we've sort of promised with the clean energy economy, but have yet to fully deliver on? And are we ensuring that the jobs stay here and the jobs multiply, which is sort of 3 to 7 times as many jobs per unit of energy in the clean side of the equation as the dirty? Are they going to the people that need the jobs the most? Those are the metrics that I think we need to think about. With that, I'll end and thank you for listening to CalCEF, the Clean Energy Fund, today.
Well, thank you very much for attending. Always welcome your comments. Visions for the future are exciting, very positive and upbeat from all three of you, so I feel good about that. So, Assemblymember Bloom, any questions from you?
Well, yeah, probably more of a comment, although others might want to add a point or two. I'm glad that you brought up the need to make sure that the new energy economy is shared by all. One of the things that we hear loud and clear in Sacramento, in an environment where some areas of the state are doing economically better and some have yet to feel the benefits of the new jobs and the increasing vibrancy of the California economy. It's extremely important that in this new sector, which is growing so rapidly, that we do focus energy on those communities, particularly communities of color, which have tended to lag behind in the production of jobs, that we just make sure that we are sharing the wealth in the state as we improve. And tied into that is quality of life. We want quality of life to increase for everyone, and we need to be mindful, and I think I'll talk a little bit about this if we have opportunity or time for closing remarks, just how the declining availability and the increasing price of housing is affecting quality of life for those who, even in a time of increasing income, are not improving their quality of life because of the increase in other costs.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I had a sort of a generic question, and maybe John and Ron are the best to answer it, but Danny, feel free to jump in too. I'm very interested in creating competition in the marketplace in the fuel sector. Petroleum has had almost a monopoly on the kinds of fuels that are offered. We're trying to ramp up electrification in a big way. So my sort of two-part question is, if anyone has an opinion on how the PUC will roll out the electrification of the grid to really ramp up the infrastructure for cars that we're going to need in the future, but also coupled with that is an alternative fuel in the electric sector, is how do we expand or increase from the 3 biofuel facilities to additional? What is the impediments? What are the obstacles? There's a lot of interest in having homegrown fuels created here in California that are cleaner, meet the low carbon fuel standard, put some competition in the marketplace in the fuel sector against petroleum. One reason they were able to raise gas prices up $1 was because they have an oligarchy, 5 refineries and no competition on fuel. So I see a future where there's fueling stations where hydrogen and electric charging your cars or a variety of other sources. How do we sort of, what are the challenges and opportunities in the fuel sector, also tied in with the PUC now taking over for the ARB in the electrification or providing the infrastructure? I guess every home will have one on the electric grid. Anyone have a thought or one comment on that?
Well, I'll take a stab at it.
Your 3 biofuels, yeah.
On the electric car situation, I have a Chevy Volt, all right?
A plug-in.
Plug-in.
Yeah.
And, I've had it for a little over a year now, and I'm starting to see more and more charging stations, but when I first got it, there wasn't as many. So it's like the chicken or the egg, which comes first in some instances. The biofuel industry is the same way. There's been many biofuel industries in California. They come and go because maybe they don't have the outlet for their product.
Is that the problem? They need to have sort of know that there's going to be a set revenue stream or somewhere who's going to
help
buy
them
their
be-
fuel?
Yeah, to help them be
Is it
competitive.
just cost of the fuel that's the impediment for people wanting to buy it, or
No, I don't know.
is it tying it into fleets or something, right?
Yeah, they have to have the infrastructure,
Right.
I guess. That's-
John?
Yeah, Senator, because of lawsuits that the California Air Resources Board had to go through the process of modifying very slightly, then readopting the low carbon fuel standard, and that's finally occurred this year. So I think we'll start to see that take full impact now, and in the months and years to come. So I think that policy will start driving activity. It doesn't necessarily mean that the fuels that the oil companies contract with to meet that standard will be produced in California. And I do think that is a good area for CCI investment to help with the underlying capital cost of some of the new biofuel plants. We're particularly interested in exploring in the San Joaquin Valley the development of renewable natural gas and harvesting some of the waste from the agricultural industry, from the dairy industry, and turning that into renewable natural gas, which has a very low carbon footprint because normally that methane from decomposing material just go in the atmosphere. Right. So I think there's a real opportunity there, and we'd really like to pursue that. There is some money that's gone into California Department of Food and Ag's part of CCI that will go to some of the dairies. I think there's an opportunity to do more there. And then what's also exciting, by the way, is that there's now a ultra low NOx heavy duty engine, the 8.9 liter by Cummins Westport, that is 90% lower NOx than the existing standard for heavy duty trucks. So that will provide air quality benefits, which are so important for the LA area as well as San Joaquin Valley. And then, I think the SB 350 was huge in terms of both the renewable content requirement that are anything connected, any transportation connected to the grid is only going to get incredibly much lower carbon now. That's so exciting. And then the direction to the CPUC to help really get the utilities to engage and helping to invest in the infrastructure, help get charging stations out there. I think that's a very important step. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Well, one quick reaction just on your question, which may be more appropriate for Carb or someone else, is there must be an opportunity coming up with the VW issue that's coming because, I assume there's a penalty and perhaps that could be spent making sure that we redress some of these historic inequalities in air quality and make sure that beats this chicken and egg problem we've described and builds infrastructure in some communities so that EV adoption can happen, so that air quality can clean up. And, given their acts, they will probably have to pay for something, and it should be spent cleaning up the air.
Good idea, and it's something I know we're going to be thinking about over the next few months is the best way to deal with, and also sending the signal that we're going to have to mitigate some of these challenges, including falsifying emissions that VW had. Assemblymember Bloom?
Yes, sounds quite appropriate, and it should come through my subcommittee. I did want to point out that the greenhouse gas reduction funds that we allocated in 2014, some of that money is going to go into the infrastructure that we're talking about here, and that money is just being rolled out now, hasn't really hit the street in a meaningful way yet. So while we do have a lot of additional funds that need to be allocated, I think it's worthwhile noting that some of that infrastructure is going to start to roll out, and then we'll add to it with the allocations that are coming up.
I think that's a really important point. I know in the last few weeks of the legislature, when I was going around trying to talk to members about SB 32 and the importance of that legislation, there was a lot of discussion about, well, we haven't seen many of these funds invested in my district. But the reality is, although not many of those funds have been invested, period, yet, it's taking a little while, so people do need to be a little patient.
But not too patient.
Not too patient.
Not too patient. And supportive.
And very supportive.
All right, thank you very much. All three enjoyed your presentations. And the last panel is on sustainable growth in a booming economy, well, at least in some areas of the state, right, Mr. Bloom? We have to remember that. Great story today in the Times on poverty levels in some parts of the state. So Randall Winston is Acting Executive Director, Strategic Growth Council, down from Sacramento. And prior to his appointment, Randall served in Governor Brown's office as a special assistant, where he did a lot of work on green buildings and zero-emission vehicles. Following Randall will be Hillary Norton. She is the Executive Director of Fixing Angelino's Stuck in Traffic. I think she has the second best acronym of the day. Fixing Angelino's Stuck in Traffic. The acronym is FAST, a community initiative fund that advocates for and implements near-term solutions to address LA's regional traffic crises. And finally, batting cleanup, Denny Zane, former mayor of Santa Monica, executive director for Move LA. And I'm sure you have a transportation measure probably coming up on a ballot. And you can tell us a little bit about that if you wish. So let's start off with Randall. Thank you very much for coming down from Sacramento.
Excellent. Thank you.
I get a lot of questions about Strategic Growth Council and where that money gets going. So.
Oh, look forward to hearing them. Thank you so much, Senator Pavley and Assemblymember Bloom. I feel like this is a good segue given the last panel and the talk about our climate investments and where they are going. So I wanted to touch upon just a few items here. So first, a little bit of background about the Strategic Growth Council and who we are, and second and third, two of our climate investments that the Strategic Growth Council administers, Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities Program, as well as a new pilot program administering technical assistance to disadvantaged communities here in California. And then finally, a couple of projects located here in Southern California that I think illustrate the types of developments that will be needed to meet our climate goals. So first and quickly, on the Strategic Growth Council, we're an interagency body by nature consisting of 6 different agency secretaries as well as 3 public members and chaired by the director of the Governor's Office of Planning and Research. Our mission really focuses on the advancement of sustainable communities, and that calls for working across agencies to break down silos and develop integrated approaches to housing, transportation, and land use investments, of course, while working to achieve environmental, economic, public health, and other community benefits, as was mentioned a number of times earlier today. Now, why is all of this necessary? I know I'm preaching to the choir here a bit, as it were, but really we have to pursue smarter growth if we're going to achieve our 2030 and 2050 goals. We know we'll have 50 million people in California by 2050. Climate impacts are already exacerbating our research constraints, the drought, sea level rise, and the health of our forests and ecosystems is recognized by the governor's executive order from a couple of weeks ago on dead and dying forests. And these impacts will in turn dramatically affect our housing and transportation infrastructure. So in combination with needed advancements in energy and transportation and some of the exciting technologies that you heard about earlier, we also need smarter land use policies that support infill development, reduce vehicle miles traveled, and active transportation. Now, what we're really talking about here, I think, is system-wide transformation. And of course, there is no easy or simple solution. One way that we're working to address this is through our Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities Program, which was appropriated last year in the Budget Act, and this was in the first round here, $130 million, and this is in 2014, 2015, and starting in 2015, 2016, through SB 862, 20% of the climate investments will go to the program. So that's totaling roughly $400 million in this current year. What you see before you on this chart is a breakdown of the 2014, 2015 funds, about $120 million, dollars to AHSC, and then $5 million to our Sustainable Agricultural Lands and Conservation Program. But I'll focus on AHSC. So what those programs fund? really projects that result in the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions and, again, VMT through land use, housing, transportation, and agricultural land preservation practices that support infill and compact development. We're looking to increase accessibility to housing, employment centers, and key destinations through low-carbon transportation options such as walking, biking, and transit. And of course, this program is part of the state's broader California climate investment strategy. Right now, the second draft investment plan is on the street, and there was a series of workshops here held over the couple of past few weeks. There's three investment concept areas: energy efficiency and clean energy, natural resources and waste diversion, and then where the programs that I'm describing reside, sustainable communities and clean transportation, all focused on integrated projects for local action. So in this first year, I think we can point to some real achievements. Over 700,000 tons of greenhouse gas emissions avoided, and that's roughly 140 cars off the road, or equivalent to folks in Newport Beach and Citrus Heights up north not driving for a year. Over 70% of the funds benefited disadvantaged communities, and over 2,000 units of affordable housing near transit. Now, again, recognize that this is a small amount, and we can certainly do more to reach more communities, and in particular, better serve communities to maximize greenhouse gas reductions and other co-benefits that are disadvantaged. And these communities, of course, as was mentioned earlier, are often the most vulnerable with regard to climate change impacts. And so with that, SGC this year will be administering a pilot technical assistance program for disadvantaged communities. We are in the process of designing this program right now. It's a small amount, really at a pilot level, $500,000, again, from our California climate investments. And it's intended to provide direct application assistance for applicants to our 2015-2016 Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities program. And the model that we're exploring is third parties contracted through SGC to provide specific contract services, again, through technical assistance for a pool of disadvantaged community applicants. We're trying to maximize the types of models that we'll be exploring this year because we know it's a pilot and we want to learn what works best in hopes of ramping up the program in the future. What we mean by assistance, just to name a few items: greenhouse gas emissions analysis, partnership and project proposal development, and also assistance in completing the application itself. And finally, I did want to touch upon a couple of projects here quickly in Southern California that were funded in our last round. And so first, MacArthur Park, Phase B, located right here in Los Angeles. This was a result of a public-private community partnership between the developer McCormick Baron Salazar, LA Metro, Los Angeles Housing Partnership, Polis Builders, and other local and state government agencies to connect affordable housing to jobs and opportunities for working families to provide a safe, livable, and walkable community. It's just a mile from downtown LA, 82 units, all affordable, a mixed-use project with over 7,000 square feet of retail space and located just adjacent to the Metro Red Line. And second here, March Veterans Village, located in Riverside, and excitingly enough, this will be breaking ground right on Monday. This is a partnership between the U.S. Veterans Initiative, Coachella Valley Housing Coalition, and the March Joint Powers Authority to develop a permanent facility for the U.S. Veterans Initiative program at March Air Force Base. 138 units, again, 100% affordable for veterans. A free transit pass will be given to residents located, again, in a disadvantaged community, and expected that the project will achieve at least LEED Silver, and co-benefits including housing and transportation costs, lowering both of those, as well as increasing job readiness and career opportunities through supportive services. So with that, I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Okay. You've been busy. All right. Thank you very much for that overview from the Strategic Growth Council. Hillary Norton, Executive Director of FAST.
Great. Let me just get my presentation up. And I should fast. That's where we're going. Great. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to address you today, and I thank you for the invitation. And FAST works with a number of organizations, including my friend Denny Zane at UCLA, and we work with a lot of business organizations. And so I was asked to express what the business community would like to see in terms of how climate change and transportation investment can help invest in our sustainable economy. So with that, I want to present a few things that really represent the work that FAST has been doing with a number of organizations such as the LA County Business Federation, known as BizFed, the LA Chamber of Commerce, the LA Business Council, and others. So here are the highest priorities. One is expedite creation of a mobility hub network and to increase transit use and provide new first mile, last mile options. As you looked at the MacArthur Park project and the 7,000 square feet of retail space, a mobility hub would fit perfectly in there, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about what those look like. But they are really a hub of activity that can expand the transit choices, including bike share, car share, bike parking, and others, and electric vehicle charging that would help expand transit services, not just having living above the transit station, but for everyone who's using that transit station to get to areas around the region. Prioritize affordable housing and mobility hub funding together through cap and trade and other resources. This was part of the work that we did as testifying with the Sustainable Growth Council. It's really important to continue to partner those, especially to create jobs in the transportation industry and create more access to healthy food, water, and other resources, while also incentivizing reduction in use of cars. Expedite investments in major arterials, paving the way for new high-occupancy vehicle BRT lanes, enhancing transit connectivity, and supporting local jobs and job access. We couldn't express the business community's position without mentioning CEQA reform. So CEQA reform for carpool connector lanes, especially those would be carpool lanes along one freeway connecting up the carpool lanes in another. In fact, the absence of those connector lanes on major freeways has made some of carpool lanes just completely invalid, because people just find that the congestion and gridlock at those intersections of freeways that don't have them are somehow often negate the use of those carpool lanes, and we could make a much better investment in that. Expanding the Metro Express Lanes network and prioritizing goods movement corridors. Also, investing in public-private partnerships to produce crucial mobility choice metrics. One of the things that we are learning as innovations are happening year to year is that more and more people are going from using cars and using cars often to other modes, but yet we're not keeping enough of those metrics and requiring people to provide those metrics in projects where those options are being introduced. And so we're losing the opportunity to help convince communities that it's not just pie in the sky, but that people are actually using these mobility choices when offered. And we would be much better off by having state standards that reflected actual use and asking those projects that are using these opportunities to provide better information and really incentivizing them, perhaps through funding of additional transit passes, additional support to expand the services they're providing to surrounding communities, et cetera. And lastly, and Denny will go into this more, advocate for Metro's proposed 2016 ballot measure. So why is LA stuck in traffic? We can speak about the city of LA since we're at UCLA. Because 66% of us are commuting alone, only 15% of us are carpooling, and that includes van pools, taxis, and TNCs like Lyft and Uber. Only 11% of us take transit, and 2% of us ride bicycles. While we need to increase the options beyond driving alone, some of the stations that we have in our region really aren't yet equipped for making sure that people have those opportunities to take them, especially at night, especially when we need to use things like restrooms and retail access and others that would encourage people to be those first choice riders to take other things such as Lyft, Uber, transit, buses, etc., or walk to these stations and then take something else. So what do the mobility hubs do? They help create this society of transit users by having a clear location that is branded, that is recognizable, open 24/7, that's also safe for people to go and use these additional facilities, such as bike share, car share, Lyft and Uber drop-off. They're looking for hot spots to have, like Lyft line and Uber pool, bike parking. More importantly, it connects up transportation technology, having bigger public kiosks in language for communities that have multiple languages, traveler information, travel apps, food, drink, most importantly, bathrooms. People talk about the fact that they're not using transit because there are very few access opportunities to bathrooms, clean, operated bathrooms at transit stations. And then safety and security, just having people there 24/7 and being able to purchase a tap card. This is what a mobility hub would look like. These are modular, they are net zero buildings with solar on top, ADA bathrooms inside, run retail with the opportunity to have car charging, bike share, bike parking, and all of it operating 24/7 near transit. This is an opportunity for people to gather and to start using transit together to increase the carpooling numbers and increase knowledge about what new technologies and new mobility systems are operating. Here's one that is operating as ground floor retail by a group called FEMIMA, and they have options like bike repair, tap card sales, and bike rental. And because we are interested in serving communities that are underserved, one of the important things about these options is that they can help be used by the people who are unbanked. Those bike rentals can be purchased in cash, tap card sales, again, paying cash, so that we can increase the opportunities for people who are unbanked to use these systems. Mobility hubs support jobs and housing by enabling people who are living near transit to get to that first last mile. And they are improving our air quality by changing from single occupant drivers to a multitude of uses, maybe even within the same trip. We are going to be reducing greenhouse gas emissions and encouraging more transit use. But also, mobility hubs extend access to transit, affordable housing, and jobs. And one of the things that is so important about increasing the amount of affordable housing and transit options is being able to convince local communities that these are good for the entire community. So by having shuttles that can get to the single-family homes and get people to and from transit, more and more people are seeing that investment in transit stations that have mobility hubs are good for them, not just the people that live in
And if I could ask you to just spend about 30 seconds to a minute more, we want to go on to our last speaker.
Sure, absolutely.
And we have your presentation here. It's excellent.
Okay.
Just running out of time.
No problem. So we are investing in corridors to improve safety, increase travel modes, and evolve to HOV BRT lanes. So these are some of the corridors that we are working on. Lastly, I wanted to talk about the Metro Express lanes and why these should be expedited throughout the state. One of the things that is important is that the 110 to the 105 has an HOV connector that moves people very, very quickly, but people misunderstand what's happening with the express lanes in that very few people understand that nearly 16 million riders have traveled the express lanes by bus. The Metro Silver Line bus ridership has increased by over 144% since Metro Express Lanes funded 59 new clean fuel buses, but net toll revenues are also funding active transportation. 40% of those net toll revenues are going for active transportation, such as the City of LA's downtown bike share program. And again, in terms of equity, this is one of the first projects in the nation that has an equity program. And more importantly, as we start looking at increasing access for clean fuel vehicles. UCLA's own Luskin Center just did a study that said that one of the reasons that people are buying electric cars is because they can be used in the carpool lane. So if we connect up carpool lanes, if we start using this opportunity to expand express lanes, we are going to make a huge benefit for goods movement, for carpool movement. We're going to incentivize people to use cleaner and more together modes of transportation, and most importantly, create a system-wide network that incentivizes cleaner travel and encourages us to move together.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hillary, and sorry for making you.
It's okay. We're the
last.
We're the last panel,
rush
so I know
through
we gotta
this. But many good suggestions, near term as well as long term. So thank you very much, Denny Zane. No introduction needed. Go ahead.
Move LA at the bottom, right there.
There you go.
Executive Director of Move LA.
Just a mouse.
The region's fortunate that you've taken your activism to transportation, because I think
Well,
that's a perfect blend.
I am very proud, and my community is very proud, that we have not only our former assembly member, former senator, but our current assembly member helping to lead the way on these efforts. So thank you for your leadership, and I think you're here to accomplish great things. This is a celebratory moment. This is a transformational moment that you see behind you on the screen when Measure R was celebrated after its approval the morning after. Voters by 67.8% voted yes. It will transform our county, I think, in ways that are yet to be seen. Another ballot measure is being considered. This measure will be likely longer than the 30-year Measure R program, which was a $40 billion program. If it is longer, these are the potential public investments that are available. Metro is considering actually not only a new measure, but extending Measure R. You put both of those together in a 40-year scenario, you have about a $120 billion program, not unlike what Alameda County did in 2014. That's more than doubling down on Measure R. It's an extraordinary opportunity. LA County, Southern California's rail transit system looked a bit like this 100 years ago. Not now, but in 1990, which is merely 25 years ago, about the beginning of the 3rd Street Promenade, this is what we had, which was nothing.
Nothing.
No rail transit, whatever. We had bus transit, however, all over the county, but it was increasingly getting stuck in the same traffic cars were stuck in. After Measure R, ANC and the projects currently under construction from Measure R, this is what our rail transit system will look like. Just those now under construction, quite a remarkable transformation. But this is what we think our opportunity is. This would be really an extraordinary transit build-out, would rival the greatest transit systems of any city really in the world. And I really do think that we have real grounds to be optimistic. The polling is good on this. The coalition of business, labor, environmental groups, civic groups, faith organizations, environmental justice communities, et cetera, have been holding together, working well together. We're very optimistic that a program robust like this will be before us. But in addition to rail transit, of course, we must think about first mile, last mile access. We need to make it easier for people to live near transit who are high propensity transit users. We need to make it easier for them to get to the transit system, and we need to give non-automotive alternatives throughout our community. Bike share, car share, and bus access and transit access near active pedestrian areas are a key part of that strategy. We need to also think about how we can recover our boulevards. You know, once upon a time, our boulevards were not only our major conveyance, they were also where business was done throughout the county. When freeways came, a lot of that life was lost. A lot of the business activities were lost off those boulevards. Most of those boulevards did not have that much housing on them. You look at Venice Boulevard, for example, there's some housing in the very west side, Mar Vista and the like, Culver City area. But other than that, very little commercial or actual housing development along those corridors. They're real opportunities, especially if we invest in our transit system and improving those corridors. We think there's a big opportunity in this measure to double down on what you folks have already provided through cap and trade money to help roll out a clean goods movement system, clean technologies. There's a piece of that strategy that a measure like this can address. It can have a 30, 40-year revenue stream that's reliable. It's great when the legislature puts real money onto the street for clean technology. It has the dilemma, however, for manufacturers and adopters that they don't know if it's going to last a long time. A ballot measure like this can put real money on the street and help the engine manufacturers, the operators know that they're not going to have a stranded technology, that they can really ramp up production, bring down the cost per unit, and make it not just a subsidized business plan, but in fact a real business plan for all of our communities. Now, we want to see another celebratory movement of this sort, but the state has an important role to play in helping to make this possible. One thing I want to add that's not likely to come up in other settings is that there is legislation proposing to put a constitutional amendment on the ballot to lower the voter threshold for transportation infrastructure. We at Move LA believe, and our partners throughout the county believe, that that would be a really huge opportunity. I personally think that if we were to join not only transportation but water in such a measure and enable local infrastructure for water reclamation and remediation as well as transportation, that would gain widespread support and could likely win on a statewide ballot. I would like to say that in the cap and trade program, we've always had a concern about ensuring a commitment to geographic equity, not only because it's an issue of fairness, but in truth, in the long run, we need to have all of our communities committed to making the kinds of investments that will reduce greenhouse gases, not just a few who are already the well advanced. I'm concerned about the Inland Empire, for example, not being reflected in the investment program. LA County is likely to do well in the future, I think, but Inland Empire counties need to be part of the solution, not just stay part of the problem. It was a very, very, I think, wise move for the legislature and the Strategic Growth Council to put money into affordable housing near transit. There is simply no question that overwhelmingly the transit users are low income, 90% on the bus system, 80% on the transit system. Market rate development near transit is not going to get us there. We need to have affordable housing. All of major academic institutions like the Dukakis Center, C&T, and Transform have issued reports demonstrating that. That needs to be a priority for our investments. I agree with Hillary, and FAST, by the way, is a wonderful partner for us, that these investments in mobility hubs and first mile, last mile investments, even when they're not joined with housing. In the last program, in order to get really investments in first mile, last mile infrastructure, it needed to be tied to housing projects. We need to have a pool available for communities when they don't have affordable housing projects, but do have good transit services. That's, I think, an important objective. Really want to urge you to continue your efforts on clean freight and urge that student transit passes be seen as a major opportunity. Frankly, if in Los Angeles County we have programs on the local level in Santa Monica, Foothill Transit has it with Rio Hondo and Mount Sac College, Long Beach Transit has it with Cal State Long Beach. Those programs have really driven up ridership as a result. If Metro were to do something like that countywide, we would in effect be able to increase ridership the equivalent of the Blue Line without having to build a Blue Line. Now that's an extraordinary improvement in our utilization of existing capital assets. Right now I'm really worried that transit operators will look for the simple instead of the innovative, look for the simple instead of that which will really drive up the ridership. That's been, I think, in part the history, and we should be concerned about that. But thank you so much for your leadership. It's really an honor for me to be here speaking with you and with legislative leadership from my own community, both historically and currently.
And you know how to find us, too, right? to continue the conversation. Thank you very much, Jenny, for your leadership and enthusiasm on this. And I'm particularly interested in the concept of, as we look for reducing the 2/3 vote threshold, I hadn't really thought about how smart politically that would be to invest in transportation and water infrastructure at the same time on a regional basis.
That's
So
right.
people can determine their priorities
I
or
think
what
it
is
would be a
needed. If it's
it would
cleaning
be a
out,
breakthrough
if it's
opportunity.
cleaning out existing smaller reservoirs in order to store recycling, whatever it is, that might be very smart. Whose bill? Who's got the 2/3 bill? Is it
It's
Jim
James
Bell?
Fraser.
Jim Fraser has it, and so it's sitting in your house.
And if I could, historically, that bill came out of Kern County. It was sponsored by the Kern County Council of Governments, which is not one of your liberal bastions. So I think there is a possibility of Democrat and Republican coalescence, perhaps.
Interesting. All right. Questions, Assemblymember Bloom?
Yes, Ms. Norton, I really think the mobility hub concept is a great one. I think it's similar to the bike stations that are already in place in Long Beach and in Santa Monica. What's the barrier, as you see it, to turning that into a movement?
I think it's really scale up. And because it's really needed, I think it's just the requirements so that we can make sure that we permit them and align them together. We're working with the City of Los Angeles and Metro to help create that permitting system, but also just making sure that these are requirements for transit stations so that they have these services. People talk about why they're using transit in other cities and other countries and what we need, and I think it's just the ability to have that scale up. And that's where the state could really be useful.
And just a couple of quick comments about affordable housing. I appreciated hearing that we've broken ground on approximately 2,000 units up and down the state. Those will be coming online in the next year or two. Unfortunately, our housing shortage around the state is growing at a rate of 100,000 units or more per year. And so this is helping, but not keeping up with the demand. And the other point is that I really don't agree. I certainly agree that affordable housing needs to be adjacent to transit, but I don't agree that that is the only housing that needs to be by transit. I think across the board, all new housing needs to be transit-oriented as much as possible, particularly in our urban hubs and cities. And I think a lot of the folks who are sitting here in this room, the young people who are going to be earning middle-class wages or better, hopefully in the future, are those who really want to be living next to transit and taking advantage of transit and are going to fill that market. So I just think it's extremely important for us to be looking at a range of housing. The housing crisis as it relates to those in middle incomes is extraordinary right now, and I think ultimately is going to be to lead both individuals and businesses to think about locating elsewhere because the housing costs for their employees are just so high.
If I could add a comment to that.
Yeah.
One of the concerns that we hear throughout Los Angeles County about the development of our transit system from communities of color, low-income communities, is a concern about displacement and gentrification. And the question about whether the communities that are most likely to be users of transit are going to be able to stay there as a result. And I think while market rate housing has an important place in our community, we have to be very conscious of the fact that it is a key part of the gentrification and displacement equation. If we're not providing either protection for the existing housing or funding to ensure affordable housing, we may find ourselves losing more riders than we're gaining.
It's a much larger discussion.
Yes, and leveraging funds from all different sources. I think part of my frustration in Sacramento because of RDA going away is everyone's looked at cap and trade revenues as the solution for affordable housing, and it isn't. It's part of the discussion as it relates to transportation. It certainly makes sense, but it was too bad Speaker Atkins' bill did not pass. There's got to be a lot of measures on the table, but a growing interest of mine, unfortunately, is the growing amount of baby boomers and older populations and how we are going to accommodate them relating to transit-oriented developments. A mile away is a long way on that. So we're going to need a huge differentiation in kinds of housing, growing number of autistic youth that'll never drive. 1 out of every 45 on the news today, it will be diagnosed with autism. There is no supported housing programs out there for the disabled. The funding has been cut tremendously. The needs are going to be real there. So it's going to be a crisis in all communities, but this is a select committee on AB 32 and climate, and it's part of the solution. But I had just one general question, I guess for Randall, for the Strategic Growth Council. I like the format for the Strategic Growth Council, that you have broken down silos and you've got the different agencies. When you talk about affordable housing, even though it's newly constructed, so I assume it's mostly newly constructed, not necessarily, maybe I'm making an assumption it could be existing housing. Are we building in energy efficiency, water conservation, maybe if there's in creating livable communities, pocket parks that have bioswales and just smart growth strategies for livable communities inside those neighborhoods?
Great question. And I'd say yes, we are. I didn't talk about our revision process and our guidelines for this next year, which have been proceeding since really earlier in the summer, and we heard a tremendous amount of comments just on those very subjects. Green infrastructure, ways to better incorporate water, energy, and greening into affordable housing design, and it is new affordable housing that we're talking about, and other ways to align with our the state's aggressive water and energy goals, how we can incorporate that into our policy criteria for the program. What we've seen in the current draft guidelines, which will be brought before council in December, are a number of pretty substantial changes. So in the way that we're thinking about greenhouse gas quantification, calling out 2 elements in particular on strengthening active transportation components, and that really means sort of strengthening the sustainable transportation infrastructure that we would like to see tied to affordable housing developments. And then second, what I referred to earlier, water, energy, and greening, and this speaks directly to your point. There was interest in a number of stakeholders and, of course, council members in further strengthening that component of the program and how to get partners, developers, and otherwise to think about developments in that matter. I'll add a few others that are probably I think appropriate for this conversation. So one, anti-displacement strategies, and this speaks to kind of the comment that correct. Community engagement and benefits. So really holding our partners or applicants, to the task of ensuring a thorough community engagement and participatory planning process in the development of projects. There's a number of other areas, and happy to share that information with all of you.
So the draft guidelines come out in December. There's a comment period for the public. If they go on to the California Energy Commission website, they would find that timeline and
So there were 4 workshops. We already had our first public meeting and draft guidelines released on the 15th of October. 4 public workshops held up and down the state shortly thereafter. The end of our public comment period was on October 30th, but we're still going around and meeting with stakeholders of all stripes. We're revising the guidelines now, and the final revised guidelines will be brought before council on December 17th. And so comments are over, but they can folks can go and see the revised guidelines on SGC's website or the Air Resources Board website as well.
All right. Thank you very much, all 3. Great way to end today's panels. And I know some people will probably have to leave. Assemblymember Bloom, we have 5 people that wanted to speak. If if you have a
Fair
few
enough.
more minutes.
Yep,
I have
I
a
do.
few more minutes. And I'm going to read off all 5 names, and if you would line up by that microphone, starting in order of sign-up, Michael Shaw with CMTA, then Rick Tebe, E4 at the LAEDC, Jeff Rabin, UCLA Luskin Center, Gregory Wright, Trade Tech Architecture, and Fabi Liu, Coalition for Clean Air. So a couple of minutes each, and please introduce yourself again for the record.
Great. Michael Shaw, California Manufacturers and Technology Association. I wanted to thank Senator for holding this hearing to have opportunity to discuss California's climate change goals going forward, how we can be competitive, and I think that's an important aspect of what was discussed today and where we can continue to make improvements, because a competitive California is going to do more for reducing what is a global problem, a global challenge, than California going off on its own, representing 1 to 1.5% of global emissions. So we want to be a leader in this process, and having a competitive economy that accomplishes these goals and reducing climate change impacts is going to be the way California can be a leader in the world. And I want to say, yes, it is possible for us to reach these goals. We believe that it is possible for us to have a vibrant economy that's providing good paying jobs for Californians. At the same time, we're accomplishing environmental goals such as reducing GHG emissions and the impacts that has on our economy. But where we are today is in a challenging place in California. Today, California manufacturers pay 66% more for industrial electricity and their industrial electricity rates than the national average. We have about a third the growth in terms of manufacturing jobs again compared to the national average. So we are struggling in that sense to keep up with the rest of the country. That's not to say that we're not gaining jobs in California on the manufacturing side, because that is taking place. But if you look back historically 20 plus years, we are quite a bit down from where we used to be. But any manufacturing job created in California is much cleaner than it is, much more energy efficient than it is anywhere else in the world, for that matter. However, we face the challenges, the higher electricity rates, the climate change mitigation costs are factors that are not present in many other states currently. That may change. And we do want to continue to be that innovative state. So to the degree we can incentivize manufacturing growth in California, that we can take those brilliant ideas that were talked about earlier, with regard to Tesla and Fisker and ChargePoint and all these other California companies, Proterra coming to California, we can take those from the idea stage and move it into the manufacturing stage, where we get a lot of those good paying middle class jobs and help lift a lot more Californians out of poverty into the middle class. What can we do? As I said, we remain competitive. A couple of points specifically. California is about to enter the third compliance period here in a little over a year. When we do that, the industry assistance factor, which are the allowances that are granted to businesses under the cap, it drops 25 and 50%. Those are unnecessary to reach our climate change goals under AB 32. So to do that is to really force businesses to spend a lot more in terms of compliance with that cap, and that is going to have a negative impact on manufacturing in the state. We can continue to meet our goals at the same time as protect those jobs by continuing that assistance, again, under the cap at 100%. Additionally, we can take a portion of the greenhouse gas reduction fund and invest it back into manufacturing for projects that are directly related to GHG emissions reductions. So we help companies meet their compliance obligations, maybe even accelerate or go beyond their compliance obligation to achieve greater reductions or faster reductions by making a minor investment in California manufacturing. The bottom line is California businesses California needs to be competitive for manufacturing in order to meet our goals in the economy as well as regarding climate change. And the best way we can do that is to provide, again, these minor investments. Additionally, as a senator, I know been very interested in certainty as to where California is going in this climate change regime is important for businesses as well. It's as important as anything else that they know what the world is going to, or California, I should say. We are the world, really, center of the universe. But they want to know where things are going to be in 10, 15, 20 years. So to the degree we can help provide that certainty, it will certainly be a big part of making California more competitive.
All good points, Michael, and I
Thank
look
you.
forward to continuing the conversation with you in Sacramento. Thank you for attending. Rick, maybe a little briefer?
Hi. Thank you, Senator, for holding the local hearing. Thank you, Assemblyman Bloom. And I want to thank you for your efforts for California and far beyond. Today's focus is significant and critical because as the economy expands, funding continues and may expand. And when the economy contracts, funding contracts, often when it is most needed. Last year there was a bill that would have taken 80% of funding for a discrete purpose and applied it to a specific technology for a 5-year period. And as Mark Twain said, if you put all your eggs in one basket, you better watch that basket. An unintended consequence, it was AB 857. An unintended consequence of putting that money into that is that it starves other technologies and other opportunities. And so I would just caution when we look at funding, if we not place that large a bet on a single technology. In my day job, I work for LA County, and I'm heavily involved with the county's PACE program, which I believe is the largest in the nation. But as you pointed out, there's a huge need and a huge opportunity in multifamily. 45% of the 3.5 million households in LA County live in multifamily, and that's especially true in disadvantaged communities. I'd like to offer one project for consideration. A lot of the best laundry plants in the region use recycled water or recycle their water. So what they do is they recapture the heated laundry water and reuse that a second time. They refilter it and reuse it. The Sheriff's Department runs a very large jail in the North County. They use more than 200 million gallons a day, and much of that for the laundry, which serves the other county jails. And there's an opportunity to if we were to recycle that, we could eliminate 70% of that water use. And we would also save the energy necessary to heat the water. And we can reuse that water for the ranch for the agricultural purposes, the wastewater. And if we did that at LA County, what would that mean statewide? What would that mean at state?
That's a good suggestion. I was looking around to see if the water energy people were making a note on that. I know we're looking at prisons for energy efficiency reductions. There's a lot of possibilities. Thank you very much for those comments.
One last statement, and then I'll go away. You asked what it's going to take for electric charging stations. And there are two answers to that. There are two costs. One is construction, and the other is the communications link. In construction, the way you save cost is you modify the Green Building Code. So anytime someone alters a parking lot, parking structure, or anytime someone builds new, they put in the conduit, they put in the blanks for the panels, they put in the pads for the transformers. Santa Monica has the perfect example. Lot number 6 on 2nd Street was open. It has 360 parking spaces. On day one, it opened with 30 EVSEs, level 2s, but it's expandable. So they built that so they could add another 130 EVSEs with, just as I described, the conduits were already there, the panels, the blanks for the panels are there, the pads for the transformers are there. That's the way you lower the cost of installation.
Okay, good
Thank you.
points. Of course,
Thank
in
you very
Santa
much.
Monica. Of course. Next up.
Good afternoon. I'm Jeff Rabin. I'm the lead author and researcher on this report, which was mentioned in the introduction to today's hearing by Professor Horowitz. This is the Guide to the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund program that was recently published by the UCLA Luskin Center for Innovation. It is available on our website. I do have copies for Senator Pavley and for Assemblyman Bloom, but we don't want to knock down any more trees than necessary. So if you see me outside and hand me your business card or sign up on my sign-up sheet, we will email you the link to the report, and you can look at it at your leisure. The report is designed to demystify the cap-and-trade system and the programs that are available, particularly for planning climate investments in disadvantaged communities, to in fairly plain English, explain the opportunities that are presented by the Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities program that we heard about, the zero emission vehicle programs of the ARB, both for cars and trucks, and the intercity rail and transit programs that are low carbon, both capital and operating money funded by GGRF, and the energy and weatherization programs that are designed to improve the efficiency of low-income housing, single-family homes, and multifamily units. In each chapter, we have a concluding set of remarks about the challenges and opportunities posed by these programs, and for the legislature, I would hope that the report would be reviewed as possible suggestions for tweaking some of these programs. And I will provide copies of the report for the members today, along with the Luskin Center's annual report. And I thank you very much for coming to UCLA.
Thank you for the good work at the Luskin Center. I had served on the advisory committee, and I know of your good work, always timely. So I look forward to reading that maybe on our way to Paris. We have a lot of plane time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, and thank you, Senator, for your world-changing work. The future starts here. I'm Gregory Wright, and I want to encourage you and the legislature to craft legislation that will accomplish the earliest and widest possible utilization of telematics technology in car insurance. I pitched this to you right here 2 years ago. The state's low-cost car insurance program very much included, and therefore reap as soon as possible and as widely as possible the wide range of benefits of applying telematics technology to car insurance, which is best known right now by the moderately subscribed to Snapshot program offered by the Progressive Insurance Company. When a lot more drivers are enjoying lower car insurance policy costs by braking less, speeding less, accelerating more softly, and driving in a much more moderate manner, which they need to do to continue on such a policy, our roadways will see much reduced emissions, lower noise, and less air pollution, and much reduced road danger, especially for people who walk along the streets, for transit users and pedestrians, which I am completely now.
No, I get the nexus there, so...
It's really good. And you can start with the state's own car insurance, low-cost car insurance program. Mandate that, or for all of the drivers in that program, also drivers of passenger vehicles, buses and vans. And I would also include car-sharing drivers like Lyft and Uber. This could many benefits.
And if you wanted to submit anything anytime in writing to my office, you're welcome to do that, but thank you very much.
I'll hand you something right after this.
Fabi Lou.
Hi, Fabi Lau, actually, with the Coalition
Lau?
for Clean Air. It's
Yes,
okay.
thank you.
And I'll be super brief. Thank you. That's why I brought him down. So thank you for having giving us the opportunity to talk today and for having this hearing here in LA. So the Coalition for Clean Air recommends that disadvantaged communities should receive at least a percentage of climate investments that they constitute of the population. So in other words, since Cal EnviroScreen classifies 1/4 of California's population as living in disadvantaged communities, then at least 25% of the funds should go to those census tracts. In addition, another 25% of the funds should be invested for the benefit of those low-income households regardless of geography. We also support transportation electrification and sustainable freight as essential pieces to reduce greenhouse gas reductions. To reduce greenhouse gases. We think that advanced vehicle technologies such as zero-emission cars, bus and trucks and freight movement equipment, they're crucial for reducing these emissions from the transportation sector, which is California's largest source of emissions. Furthermore, investing in cleaner freight will also help attain the goals outlined in the state's sustainable freight plan. Reducing short-lived climate pollutants such as methane and black carbon is also a key and very important strategy in order for the state to meet its AB 32 goals. Reducing short-lived climate pollutants offers opportunities to lessen global and local climate change impacts, while also improving the air quality and health in communities most impacted by the local sources of air pollution. Lastly, the largest emitters are overwhelmingly located in disadvantaged communities. The Coalition for Clean Air would like to recommend a phased-in approach to on-site reductions that begins with the largest emitters of greenhouse gases and co-pollutants. AB 32 and any successor legislation should have a target to reduce emissions, and all reductions in short-lived climate pollutants must be achieved through direct emission reductions measures on-site and should not be eligible to be part of the auction process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know localized criteria air pollutants are a huge concern. This will be our last speaker, and before he mentions it, I want to say before anyone else leaves, I wanted to give a special note of thanks to my staff who put this together. Richard and I just show up and it's magically done, right? I just need parking directions and I'm here. But Andre, particularly from my Capitol office, did an amazing job, but also with me today is Henry Stern, environment energy person in the back, wave your hand. Maria's here. She is in my district office. Sarah was here. Lauren, are you still here? Lauren Gallant, my district director, and Tim Hurt, my new media guy. So thank you very much to my staff who helped put this all together. And the reason I read off their names, if you have Richard and I are going to be leaving shortly, but if you have follow-up questions or you need to pass a business card to any of my staff members, that would be fine. Yes.
Yes, I'm Gary Hartung from Simi Valley. I was quite impressed with all these constructive suggestions. However, if these climate change scenarios do occur after we recycle and conserve God knows, how many gallons of water every year, how are we going to deal with a possibility that California has more extended periods of drought? Well, one of the most important solutions that was just briefly mentioned today was the construction of desalination plants. There's a company called Poseidon Water and IDE Technologies down in San Diego that, I don't know, maybe they finally got the Carlsbad desalination plant to start working. I don't know. But it was absolutely absurd that this company had to take 7 years to get this plant built. They have one other plant down in Huntington Beach that they would like to operate also. However, a number of years ago, there was an idiotic lawsuit brought by a far-left lunatic fringe environmental group down there. I don't know what the name of this group was, but because there were some fish in front of the outfall pipe where the hot water was going to get discharged, this project was delayed for several years. Now, this company has been around for a long, long time. They have built plants in Israel decades ago. They built plants on the Gulf Coast of Texas and Florida. They were employing 2,500 people to build this plant. I don't know what the status is of their Huntington Beach plant now, but a lot of these environmental regulations have to be considered, have to be reconsidered. If Tesla got $10 billion worth of tax incentives to go to Nevada and build their car plant, you know, I'm not, or their battery plant, well, you know, maybe there's a lot of merit in that. But we should have desalination plants perhaps built every 60, 80 miles up along the coast. We could employ 30, maybe 35,000 people doing something constructive to alleviate the drought for many years to come. That's not the entire solution to it.
I want to thank you for your comments, and there's several people who are with you on desalination as one of the tools that we can use for drought.
Yeah, but we can't have these idiotic lawsuits by these lunatics continue for decades.
All right. No one wants idiotic lawsuits. Anyway, and with that, see how climate and energy and water all work. Someone's talking about energy reductions in desal. So have a good afternoon, everyone. Very helpful to me.
Thank you, Senator.
Yes,